The morning sun painted the Pacific Ocean in shades of gold and crimson as Captain Sarah Phoenix Martinez adjusted her flight helmet one final time. 23 years of naval aviation had taught her that routine flights could turn extraordinary in seconds, but today felt different. The intelligence briefing had been unusually tense, with reports of unidentified aircraft movements near the carrier strike group. Her F-A-18 Super Hornet hummed beneath her as she completed pre-flight checks aboard the USS Gerald R. Ford. The massive aircraft carrier cut through the waves with purpose, its flight deck bustling with activity. Phoenix had earned her call sign during her third deployment, when she had successfully landed a heavily damaged aircraft that should have been impossible to save. The fireball that erupted from her engine bay as she touched down had looked like a mythical bird rising from flames. As she waited for launch clearance, Phoenix noticed unusual chatter on the radio frequencies. The air boss sounded more alert than usual, and there were mentions of unknown contacts approaching from the northeast. Her squadron commander's voice crackled through her headset with new orders that made her pulse quicken. Phoenix, we're scrambling additional fighters. You're being reassigned to combat air patrol. Vector 270, Angels 20. We have multiple bogies approaching the outer perimeter. The catapult officer's signal came moments later, and Phoenix felt the familiar crushing force as her Hornet was launched into the morning sky. As she climbed to altitude, she could see other aircraft launching behind her, their afterburners creating streaks of blue flame against the dawn. The situation was escalating rapidly, and Phoenix's years of experience told her this wasn't a standard intercept mission. Her radar operator's voice filled her helmet as contacts began appearing on her scope. Phoenix, I'm showing 4. No, 6 fast movers approaching from multiple vectors. Speed and altitude suggest advanced fighters. The tactical display in her cockpit painted a picture that made her blood run cold. These weren't the usual suspects they encountered in these waters. As Phoenix leveled off at 20,000 feet, she caught her first visual of the approaching aircraft. Even at distance, their distinctive angular silhouettes were unmistakable. F-22 Raptors, the most advanced air superiority fighters in the world, were approaching their position in a coordinated formation. But something was wrong with this picture. These aircraft weren't supposed to be here, and they weren't responding to standard identification procedures. The lead Raptor began closing distance rapidly, its stealth design making it appear to shimmer in the morning light. Phoenix's training kicked in as she prepared for what could become the most challenging encounter of her career. Her finger hovered near the weapon systems panel while she maintained radio discipline, knowing that any mistake could escalate this situation beyond control. Phoenix has visual on 6 F-22s in attack formation, requesting immediate guidance on rules of engagement. The silence that followed her transmission lasted only seconds, but it felt like hours. When the response came, it carried weight that made her realize this moment would define everything that followed. The lead F-22 was now close enough that she could see the pilot's helmet through the canopy. In that instant, Phoenix understood that whoever was flying those Raptors was about to discover exactly why her call sign had become legendary throughout naval aviation. The morning that had started as routine patrol was about to become a test of everything she had learned. In over 2 decades of flying the most dangerous skies in the world, the F-22s moved with deadly precision, their formation tightening as they approached Phoenix's position. Each Raptor represented the pinnacle of American air power, capable of speeds exceeding Mach 2 and armed with weapon systems that could engage targets beyond visual range. Phoenix found herself facing aircraft that were technically superior to her own, flown by pilots whose intentions remained mysteriously unclear. Her radar warning receiver began chirping insistently, indicating that the lead F-22 had locked onto her aircraft with its fire control radar. The sound sent ice through her veins, the electronic death knell that every fighter pilot dreaded. Phoenix's hands moved instinctively to her countermeasures panel, while her eyes swept the sky for escape routes that didn't exist at 20,000 feet above open ocean. Unknown F-22 flight. This is Navy Fighter Phoenix on guard frequency. You are approaching a restricted operating area. Identify yourself immediately and state your intentions. Her voice remained steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her system. Years of combat training had taught her that panic was a luxury she couldn't afford when facing superior aircraft. The response came not through radio communications but through aggressive maneuvering. The lead Raptor rolled inverted and pulled, into a steep dive, positioning itself for what appeared to be an attack run. The remaining 5 F-22s spread out in a classic engagement formation, each pilot moving with the confidence that came from flying the world's most advanced fighter aircraft. Phoenix's mind raced through tactical options as she watched the Raptors position themselves around her. Her Super Hornet was outnumbered 6-1, facing aircraft that possessed significant advantages in stealth, speed, and weapons range. Traditional fighter tactics would be suicide against such odds, but Phoenix hadn't survived 23 years of naval aviation by following conventional wisdom. The carrier's air traffic control frequency erupted with urgent transmissions as the situation developed rapidly. All aircraft, we have unknown F-22s engaging our combat air patrol. Phoenix, what's your status? The controller's voice carried barely controlled tension as the implications of American fighters potentially engaging each other became clear. Phoenix rolled her aircraft into evasive maneuvers as the lead F-22 completed its dive and began climbing back toward her altitude. The Raptor's pilot was demonstrating skills that matched her own, using the aircraft's superior performance to maintain tactical advantage while keeping her within weapons range. Each movement was calculated and professional, suggesting military training at the highest levels. Control: Phoenix is defensive against 6 F-22s. They're not responding to identification requests and have me locked up with fire control radar. I need immediate backup and clarification on engagement authority. Even as she spoke, Phoenix was pulling hard G-forces that pressed her body deep into her ejection seat. The morning sun created a deadly ballet as 7 of the world's most advanced fighter aircraft maneuvered for position above the Pacific. Phoenix's aircraft groaned under the stress of high G-turns while she fought to maintain defensive positioning against multiple threats. Her fuel gauge showed the rapid consumption that came with afterburner use, adding another layer of urgency to an already critical situation. Through her helmet's heads-up display, Phoenix could see missile launch envelopes being calculated in real time as the F-22s maintained their aggressive posture. The electronic warfare suite in her cockpit painted a picture of multiple radar locks from different directions, creating a web of death that seemed impossible to escape. But Phoenix had earned her legendary status through situations exactly like this one. As the lead F-22 began another attack run, she prepared to demonstrate why her call sign had become synonymous with survival against impossible odds. The next few minutes would determine whether this encounter ended in tragedy or became another chapter in the legend of Phoenix. Phoenix slammed her throttles into afterburner and pulled into a vertical climb that would have been impossible in any aircraft less capable than the Super Hornet. The sudden maneuver caught the lead F-22 pilot off guard, forcing him to adjust his attack angle while Phoenix gained precious altitude and repositioned herself defensively. The twin engines behind her roared with full military power as she climbed through 25,000 feet. The chase that followed pushed both aircraft and pilots to their absolute limits. Phoenix used every trick she had learned in decades of aerial combat, employing the Super Hornet's superior low-speed handling to force the Raptors into disadvantageous positions. She dove toward the ocean surface, then pulled up sharply, using the Earth's curvature to mask her aircraft from their radar systems temporarily. Behind her, the F-22 pilots demonstrated skills that matched her own tactical knowledge. They worked as a coordinated team, with 2 aircraft maintaining high-altitude coverage while 4 others pursued her through a series of increasingly dangerous maneuvers. Their formation discipline remained perfect, even at speeds approaching Mach 1.5, suggesting training levels that went far beyond standard pilot proficiency. The Pacific Ocean rushed up to meet Phoenix as she descended through 5,000 feet, the blue-green water filling her canopy as she leveled off just above the wave tops. Salt spray from the carrier's wake created a thin mist that reduced visibility, but Phoenix used the challenging conditions to her advantage. Flying at high speed only feet above the ocean required absolute concentration, leaving little margin for error. Phoenix, control. We're launching additional fighters to assist. What's your position? The carrier's air traffic controller sounded increasingly concerned as the engagement continued without resolution. Phoenix's radar showed her backup still climbing toward altitude, but they were several minutes away from reaching the fight. The first F-22 followed her down to sea level, its pilot demonstrating remarkable courage by matching her dangerous low-altitude flight profile. The Raptor's stealth design gave it an ethereal quality as it moved through the ocean mist, appearing and disappearing like a ghost. Aircraft pursuing her across the endless Pacific, waters Phoenix rolled inverted and pulled into a knife-edge climb that pushed her aircraft beyond its normal performance envelope. The G-forces crushed her body against the ejection seat as she fought to maintain consciousness, while executing a maneuver that would either save her life or destroy her aircraft. The Super Hornet's airframe groaned under stresses it was never designed to endure. At 15,000 feet, she rolled upright and found herself face to face with two F-22s, approaching from different directions. Their pilots had anticipated her climb and positioned themselves perfectly to bracket her escape route. Phoenix was trapped between superior aircraft flown by pilots whose skills matched her own legendary capabilities. The lead Raptor pulled alongside her aircraft, close enough that she could see the pilot's face through his visor. For a brief moment, the two aviators studied each other across the space between their canopies. Phoenix saw professionalism and determination in the other pilot's posture, qualities she recognized from her own reflection countless times before dangerous missions. Then the F-22 pilot did something unexpected. Instead of maintaining his attack position, he pulled slightly ahead and began rocking his wings in the international signal for "Follow me." The gesture was subtle but unmistakable, suggesting a change in the mysterious aircraft's intentions that Phoenix couldn't yet understand. Phoenix's fuel gauge showed critical levels as the high-speed chase continued. She had perhaps 10 minutes of flight time remaining before being forced to return to the carrier. But the F-22s showed no signs of ending their aggressive pursuit. The situation was reaching a critical point where decisions made in the next few moments would determine the outcome of this unprecedented encounter between American fighter aircraft in international waters. Phoenix made a decision that would define the rest of the encounter. Instead of continuing evasive maneuvers, she leveled her wings and activated her aircraft's identification transponder, broadcasting her call sign and squadron information on all emergency frequencies. The transmission cut through the electronic warfare environment like a sword through silk, carrying her legendary call sign to every aircraft within range. Unknown F-22 flight, this is Captain Sarah Martinez. Call sign Phoenix, United States Navy. I am transmitting my identification, codes, and request immediate clarification of your intentions. Her voice carried the authority that came from commanding respect in the most dangerous profession in the world. The response came seconds later, but not in the form she expected. Instead of radio communication, the lead F-22 pilot began a series of precise aerial maneuvers that Phoenix recognized as military hand signals performed with an entire aircraft. The pilot was spelling out letters in the sky using his fighter's movements, communicating through a method that bypassed all electronic systems. Phoenix watched in amazement as the Raptor pilot spelled out "Dark Star," followed by a series of numbers that made her blood run cold. Dark Star was a classified program that supposedly didn't exist, mentioned only in the most secret briefings attended by pilots with the highest security clearances. The numbers that followed were coordinates that placed them exactly where they were supposed to be, but for reasons that couldn't be discussed over open radio frequencies. Understanding flooded through Phoenix's mind as pieces of the puzzle fell into place. These F-22s weren't unknown aggressors or foreign aircraft. They were American pilots conducting a highly classified test that required absolute secrecy, even from friendly forces. Her interception had been accidental, placing her in the middle of an operation that existed far above her security clearance level. The lead F-22 pilot continued his aerial communication, spelling out Phoenix legend confirmed with movements so precise they could only come from someone who knew her reputation intimately. Phoenix realized that her call sign had preceded her into this encounter, and the F-22 pilots had been testing her skills rather than attempting to engage her as an enemy. Control, Phoenix. I am observing unusual aircraft behavior that suggests friendly forces conducting classified operations. Request permission to follow prescribed protocols for this type of encounter. Phoenix chose her words carefully, knowing that intelligence analysts would review every transmission from this engagement. The carrier's response came immediately, suggesting that higher authorities were monitoring the situation in real time. Phoenix, you are cleared to follow standard protocols. Maintain current position and await further instructions. The formal language confirmed that this encounter had moved beyond normal tactical operations. into the realm of black programs and classified testing. Phoenix found herself flying in formation with the 6 F-22s as they turned toward a new heading that would take them away from the carrier strike group. The Raptor pilots had smoothly transitioned from aggressive interceptors to professional escorts, demonstrating the same precision in their formation flying that they had shown during the pursuit phase. As they flew through the morning sky, Phoenix began to understand why her call sign had halted what appeared to be an aggressive encounter. Her reputation among military aviators extended far beyond her own squadron and service branch. The F-22 pilots had recognized her as a pilot whose skills and experience commanded respect throughout the aviation community. The lead Raptor pilot pulled alongside her aircraft again, this time close enough for Phoenix to see him clearly through his canopy. He raised his hand in a crisp military salute, acknowledging her as a fellow warrior who had earned her place among the elite pilots of American military aviation. Phoenix returned the salute, understanding that this gesture represented mutual respect between professionals who pushed the boundaries of what was possible in the sky. The formation continued flying toward coordinates that Phoenix now understood were part of a classified test program requiring the highest levels of secrecy and skill. Her accidental involvement had become an impromptu evaluation of her abilities, one that she had apparently passed with the distinction that made her call sign legendary throughout naval aviation. The formation of 7 advanced fighter aircraft flew toward coordinates that existed only in the most classified databases of American military operations. Phoenix found herself temporarily assigned to a mission that officially didn't exist, flying alongside pilots whose names she would never know, and whose operation would never appear in any official records. As they approached the designated area, Phoenix observed the F-22 pilots beginning complex tactical maneuvers that suggested they were preparing for some type of advanced testing scenario. The lead Raptor communicated through continued aerial signals, indicating that Phoenix would serve as an independent observer rather than an active participant in whatever was about to unfold. The test area appeared empty to conventional sensors, but Phoenix's electronic warfare systems began detecting signatures that indicated the presence of highly advanced technology operating in the vicinity. Stealth drones, invisible to normal radar, were apparently conducting coordinated operations that required the F-22s to demonstrate capabilities beyond their normal specifications. Phoenix watched in fascination as the Raptor pilots began engaging targets that she couldn't see, using weapon systems and tactics that pushed the boundaries of current aviation technology. Their movements were synchronized with electronic systems that operated on frequencies she had never encountered, suggesting integration between manned fighters and autonomous aircraft operating in the same airspace. The lead F-22 pilot began demonstrating maneuvers that seemed to defy the normal limitations of fighter aircraft performance. His Raptor pulled through turns that should have been impossible at their current altitude and speed, suggesting modifications or capabilities that exceeded the published specifications of the F-22 platform. Control: Phoenix observing advanced flight testing of undisclosed capabilities, all aircraft performing within expected parameters. Phoenix transmission was carefully worded to provide information without revealing classified details to anyone monitoring their communications. The response from the carrier came with new authority in the controller's voice. Phoenix, you are temporarily detached to observe current operations. Follow instructions from lead aircraft and maintain communication protocols. The formal language confirmed that her participation had been approved. At levels far above normal tactical command, Phoenix found herself serving as safety observer for testing that represented the cutting edge of American air power development. The F-22 pilots were evaluating systems that would define the future of aerial warfare, conducting trials that required absolute secrecy and the highest levels of pilot skill. As the test continued, Phoenix began to understand why her legendary status had gained her temporary inclusion in this classified program. Her reputation for handling impossible situations and her demonstrated ability to maintain operational security made her an ideal witness to capabilities that few pilots would ever see. Morning sun climbed higher as the test scenario developed into increasingly complex phases. Phoenix observed the F-22s coordinating with invisible assets to create tactical situations that would have been science fiction only a few years earlier. The integration of stealth technology, artificial intelligence, and human pilot skill created capabilities that redefined what was possible in aerial combat. One of the F-22 pilots began demonstrating vertical flight profiles that approached the edge of space, climbing to altitudes where the sky turned dark blue and the curvature of the Earth became visible. Phoenix watched through her aircraft's advanced sensors as the Raptor performed maneuvers in the thin atmosphere that bordered on spaceflight. The lead pilot's aerial communication indicated that the primary test phase was nearing completion, but Phoenix understood that her involvement had extended far beyond accidental interception. Her presence had provided an independent evaluation of systems that would shape American air power for decades to come. As the formation prepared to return to their separate destinations, Phoenix realized that she had witnessed the birth of capabilities that would remain classified for years. Her call sign had not only halted an apparent aggressive encounter, but had also earned her a front-row seat to the future of aerial warfare, conducted by pilots whose skills matched her own legendary abilities in the unforgiving environment of advanced fighter aircraft operations. As the classified test phase concluded, the lead F-22 pilot initiated a series of maneuvers that Phoenix recognized as preparation for formation separation. But instead of immediate departure, the 6 Raptors arranged themselves in a perfect diamond formation around her Super Hornet, creating a display of precision flying that represented the highest levels of military aviation professionalism. The lead pilot began transmitting on a discrete frequency that bypassed normal communication channels, speaking directly to Phoenix for the first time since the encounter began. His voice carried the calm authority of someone accustomed to flying the most advanced aircraft in the world under the most demanding conditions. Phoenix, this is Colonel Hayes, call sign Spectre. Your reputation preceded our mission brief this morning. What started as an intercept scenario became an evaluation of the legendary pilot behind the Phoenix call sign. The formal introduction carried weight that made Phoenix understand the significance of what had just occurred. Phoenix responded with equal professionalism, recognizing that this conversation would become part of the permanent record of classified aviation operations. Colonel Hayes, it's been an honor to observe your operations. The capabilities demonstrated today represent extraordinary advancement in aviation technology and pilot integration. The F-22 formation began a slow, ceremonial fly-around of Phoenix's aircraft, each pilot demonstrating the precision that came from hundreds of hours flying the world's most advanced fighter. Their movements were choreographed to honor a fellow aviator whose skills had earned respect throughout the military aviation community. Colonel Hayes continued the transmission as his aircraft completed the ceremonial circuit. Phoenix, your handling of an unprecedented situation demonstrated exactly why your call sign has become legendary. The way you managed tactical disadvantage while maintaining operational security exceeded our expectations. For this type of encounter, Phoenix felt the weight of recognition from pilots whose own capabilities represented the pinnacle of American air power. The F-22 community was small and exclusive, consisting of aviators selected for their exceptional skills and ability to handle the most advanced aircraft ever built. Their acknowledgement of her abilities carried significance that extended far beyond normal professional courtesy. The formation began climbing to higher altitude as they prepared for departure to destinations that Phoenix would never know. Colonel Hayes transmitted final coordinates that would guide her back to the carrier, while ensuring separation from their classified flight path. Phoenix, your participation today will be noted in appropriate channels. The professional manner in which you handled an unexpected classified encounter reflects the highest traditions of naval aviation. The colonel's words carried the formal language of official recognition that would eventually appear in classified personnel evaluations. As the F-22s climbed toward their departure altitude, Phoenix observed their transition from formation flying to individual aircraft operations. Each pilot demonstrated the independence and tactical awareness that made them effective operators of the world's most capable air superiority fighter. The lead Raptor rolled inverted one final time, allowing Colonel Hayes to look down at Phoenix's aircraft from directly overhead. The gesture represented a final salute between warriors who had shared a unique experience in the demanding environment of advanced fighter operations. Phoenix began her return flight to the carrier with a new understanding of her place in the broader community of military aviators. Her legendary call sign had not only halted what appeared to be an aggressive encounter, but had also earned her recognition from pilots whose own capabilities represented the future of American air power. The morning that had begun as routine combat air patrol had evolved into an encounter that would remain classified for years but would strengthen Phoenix's reputation among the elite pilots who operated at the highest levels of military aviation. The F-22 pilots had tested her abilities and found them worthy of respect from those who flew the most advanced aircraft ever created. As the carrier appeared on the horizon, Phoenix understood that some missions transcended normal operational parameters and became defining moments in a pilot's career. Her encounter with the F-22s had been one of those rare experiences that validated everything she had learned in 23 years of pushing the boundaries of what was possible in the sky. Phoenix approached the USS Gerald R. Ford with her fuel gauge showing emergency reserves, the morning's extraordinary encounter having consumed far more than a standard combat air patrol mission. The massive carrier grew larger in her windscreen as she entered the landing pattern, its flight deck bustling with activity as crews prepared for her recovery. The air boss's voice crackled through her headset with unusual formality as she entered the final approach phase. "Phoenix, you are cleared for immediate recovery. Proceed directly to the wire without delay." The priority handling confirmed that higher authorities were monitoring her return and wanted her debriefed as quickly as possible. As Phoenix lined up with the carrier's angled deck, she reflected on the morning's events that had transformed a routine patrol into an encounter with the most advanced capabilities of American air power. The F-22 pilots had disappeared toward destinations that existed only in classified databases, leaving her with memories of maneuvers and technologies that officially didn't exist. The tailhook caught the 3-wire with perfect precision, bringing her Super Hornet to a controlled stop on the carrier's deck. Ground crews immediately surrounded her aircraft with the efficient choreography that made carrier operations possible. But Phoenix noticed additional personnel whose uniforms indicated intelligence and security specialties. Phoenix shut down her engines and began the post-flight procedures that every carrier pilot had performed thousands of times. But today's shutdown included additional steps related to classified encounters, ensuring that sensitive electronic data was properly secured before leaving the aircraft. As she climbed down from the cockpit, Phoenix was met by her squadron commander along with officers she didn't recognize but whose rank insignia indicated senior positions in naval intelligence. The formal reception confirmed that her morning flight had attracted attention at the highest levels of Naval Aviation Command. "Captain Martinez, you're needed in the Intelligence Center for immediate debriefing." The commander's words were professional but carried undertones that suggested the significance of what had occurred during her encounter with the F-22s. The debriefing session lasted several hours and involved personnel connected by secure video, links to locations that Phoenix could only guess. Her account of the morning's events was recorded with the precision required for encounters involving classified programs and capabilities that existed beyond normal operational parameters. Throughout the debriefing, Phoenix maintained the professional discretion that had made her legendary call sign synonymous with reliability under the most demanding conditions. She provided accurate technical details while understanding that certain aspects of what she had observed would remain classified for years or decades. Swadir, senior intelligence officer, concluded the session with formal language that Phoenix recognized as the conclusion of classified encounters. "Captain Martinez, your professional handling of an unprecedented situation reflects the highest standards of naval aviation. Your observations will contribute to ongoing evaluations of advanced capabilities." As Phoenix returned to her squadron's ready room, she found her fellow pilots waiting with the curiosity that always followed unusual missions. But the classified nature of her encounter meant that the morning's extraordinary events would remain her private knowledge, shared only with those who possessed the highest security clearances. The afternoon brought normal carrier operations, with Phoenix returning to the routine flights that formed the backbone of naval aviation. But she carried with her the knowledge that her legendary call sign had opened doors to capabilities that represented the future of American air power. That evening, as Phoenix stood on the carrier's flight deck watching the sunset paint the Pacific in brilliant colors, she understood that some encounters transcend normal professional experience and become defining moments in a military career. Her meeting with the F-22 pilots had been one of those rare experiences that validated everything she had learned about flying the most demanding aircraft in the most challenging environments. The stars emerged overhead as the carrier continued its mission across the endless Pacific. Phoenix's legendary call sign had not only halted what appeared to be an aggressive encounter, but had also earned her a place in the exclusive community of pilots who had witnessed capabilities that would shape aerial warfare for generations to come. The morning that had begun with routine patrol duties had evolved into an encounter that would remain among the most significant experiences of her distinguished career in naval aviation.